Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with some more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. Today I wanted to have a little bit of a tactics discussion about playing asymmetrically, or playing off balance, or playing with just a bit of an odd build, if you will. You can see I've taken no front line really with the Dark Elves here. We're against High Elves, Red Legion once again, and for for the build, we've got a very strange one. You can see we've got just a couple bolt throwers here, some dread spears, manticore, Marathi on foot, Siren of the Red Ruin, a couple of K-Knight assassins, and 4 Dark Riders with shields. And the deployment in particular I want to call note to. We've also got a couple of Cold One Knights here hidden in the woods. So you can see here we've kind of got a few different forces. We've got this a bit of stationary force here that's meant to hang back. I'm going to play up and forward with this mobile force kind of towards the flank here. There's quite a bit of value concentrated here, though, if you think about it. There's 2,000 points worth of Dark Riders with shields. These K-Knight assassins both probably about 750 to 800, I forget. With that exact kit, might be even more, might be up to 900 potentially. Obviously, Siren of the Red Ruin, Marathi, both very expensive. Feral Manticore is super cost effective, but all in all told, there's definitely a lot more value here than there is here. So I'm going to push up forward with this force and just kind of start to harass and annoy and allow these bolt throwers to get some work done on various units. We've also got the Cold One Knights to protect just in case he gets a little crazy with these Dragon Princes. Got 2 of them, 1 on each flank, plus some Reavers over on this side. And Red Legion coming in with what you would expect most multiplayer players come in with, something more like this. A little bit of a balanced formation here. A bolt thrower, 3 archers. We've got spearmen, 1 white line here. So not 100% totally balanced, but still relatively evenly distributed. You've got kind of the Reavers to counterbalance the pure main company on this side. We've also got a Feral Manticore Summoner here and Techless up in the air. So definitely a pretty interesting kind of, I don't know if I would say meta build, but just sort of standard, nothing too surprising. Yeah, I'm going to pull up and just start to pull up and feint back. And my idea here is if I can pull these Dragon Princes out of position and into a bad engagement here, I've got a lot of effects that can damage them. So in particular, these K-Knight Assassins have Web of Shadows, and this is something that Killing Smalls, you guys have seen on the channel recently, used against me as when I was playing as Bretonnia, and it was quite strong. This Web of Shadows, it's strong versus a single combatant, right? Which means it's good against cavalry. We'll just strip away models from cavalry and elite cavalry especially. Plus the speed debuff means it's just absolutely great for basically using them as a blob bait to have cavalry charge in on them, or even just run them into a blob of a cav and use that. Marathi, of course, has her AoE effect as well with Soul Stealer, and that's basically all we've got for her. You can see the Feral Manticore now being summoned, and Techless goes in with the net for the K-Knight Assassin, so we can go ahead and and respond with the Assassin's Trophy, heavily nerf Techless's stats, 22 and 16. Dragon Princes come over to support, which is definitely the right call, but my Dark Riders are going to come in. We get a good charge on the Reavers and just kind of pull away, and again, I'm trying to force a big blob of cavalry if I can here, so we're going to charge all the Dark Riders in on this one Dragon Prince, and so these other Reavers and the Dragon Princes, as they charge in, they will also go into this blob. But you can see a little bit of a canceled Soul Stealer there. That would have been a super juicy one, but instead waited a little bit longer, and it looks like he might actually pull away some of his units. And that being said, Siren of the Red Ruin getting absolutely deleted here. All the meanwhile, while this combat is happening, we're kind of trading value back and forth. The archers are in here giving some supporting fire against the Dark Riders, which is great. But my bolt throwers are just set to multi-fire mode, and they are absolutely shredding this archer line, doing a ton of damage here. So it's definitely some trading back and forth. My Manticore is just kind of hanging back, or at least was, but we're going to go ahead and deploy it now. We've got our second Assassin's Trophy on Techless, and you can see the Web of Shadows being used there as the Dragon Princes roll past. It does quite a bit of damage, debuffs their speed as well, strips away a handful of unit models there, and especially for the Reavers who got completely caught up, that will be quite impactful. And you can see here, Dragon Princes over pursuing a little bit. They're trying to make their way back over here, and another effect, Marathi throwing that sweet Soul Stealer, or no, actually, yeah, that's the other Web of Shadows from the other K-Knight Assassin, and the Manticore comes in and actually does quite a bit of damage to Techless and these Dragon Princes. Considering how cheap the Manticore is, that is very cost effective. Granted, the Manticore will eventually get absolutely wrecked by these archers, and Dragon Princes have also done quite a bit of damage to it, but the Terror kicking in for the Dragon Princes. Looks like we've got another Summon Feral Manticore for the High Elves there. But yeah, there's the Soul Stealer I was looking for. Reavers come in, take some damage from it, and then immediately nope out. And yeah, they did actually hit Techless there as well, so pretty good stuff. This last unit of Dragon Princes is now just completely surrounded by my remaining Dark Riders, who I've been trying to just cycle charge as much as possible back and forth with. And because I have so many numbers of them, they're not going to all die, right? They heavily outnumber these Dragon Princes. It's actually a pretty good engagement for me. And all the meanwhile, I really haven't ever engaged his front line. And so finally I can start to bring up my spears, start to engage his spears. The Cold One Knights also come forward in the late game, try and mop up a bunch of stuff. So things are looking pretty good. Techless does manage to see off the Manticore here. A little bit of bad RNG. He did have the Assassin's Trophy on him there momentarily, and despite that was still able to beat the Manticore with a few really nice attack rolls. That's pretty good. Will it be enough, though? Techless is a powerhouse, but can he carry the rest of this? Particularly Marathi being on foot with the K-Knight Assassins, I feel very safe because she's anti-large AP and has pretty good stats and debuffs as well. The Assassin's Trophy can kind of work in tandem with that, and they, of course, the two K-Knight Assassins, can also fight in melee. So now that most of the Spear Sport's kind of being pulled out of position to engage my other melee units, I can deploy the Dark Riders against these ranged. Finally getting in and silencing these archers, finishing them off, silencing this elf bolt thrower, this high elf bolt thrower, and I mean, it has done some okay damage, 12 kills, not 100% sure, but now these bolt throwers can switch their anti-infantry mode to targeting the spearmen. Cold One Knights moving up and around to try and get at, I think the Pure Main Company is the main target, and these Dragon Princes I want to go after with them, potentially try and get Techless as well, but again, that Assassin's Trophy, having two of them just allows you to keep it up basically, not quite all the time, but in a very consistent way, and it really makes Techless, his mount at least, a lot less impactful because you can significantly nerf its melee potential and really kind of just zone him out and make him a lot less effective. He'll still be hard to kill, and Red Legion's done a great job of keeping him alive here, utilizing those various effects. Oh man, Doombolt just murdering my FPS from Marathi there. Marathi herself is in here fighting. You can see the Cold One Knights now getting their rear charge on the Pure Main Company, and the final Soul Stealer on this blob of Cav and Techless and White Lions. Or more like Cream Lions, to be honest. The Pure Main Company. But anyway, that will be the dagger in the coffin. Nail in the coffin, dagger in the coffin. It's not a turn of phrase. Anyway, dagger in the heart, nail in the coffin, killing blow. Anyway, Marathi there with 88 kills, doing a great job holding it down with their two K-Knight Assassin. I won't call them friends, but let's just, yeah, anyway. The Dark Riders also proving to be very cost-effective here, I have to say. You guys know I'm a big fan of all types of cavalry. Cost-effective light cavalry especially, though, is really nice. I don't like it quite as much as Elite Shock Cavalry, but utilizing it here against Elite Shock Cavalry, we're able to do quite well. You can see the Bolt Throwers as well, 92 and 108 kills. Typically don't see massive kill totals, but then again, people usually don't use the Bolt Throwers on multi-shot to counterfire enemy ranged, which I think for the Dark Elves is probably one of the best uses of them. People typically, because Dark Elves have a lot of low armor, high value targets, and generally not the most melee, or sorry, unit models, and you know, just kind of low HP too, right? So missiles are good against them generally. Mid-range skirmishers, especially, like very cost-effective ones, are quite decent, and utilizing the bolt throwers against them, something that I kind of started doing more often back when Queen and the Crone came out, but since then I haven't really tried it too much in this matchup. But now, definitely, I mean, as much as ever, it's still very strong, and playing in such a way as this, where you can kind of break up your forces into multiple engagements, play up and forward from your artillery, and kind of, you know, not really take a traditional heads-up engagement as a lot of players would, right? And I do think that this particularly plays well into a certain few factions. We'll kind of talk about it. Pretty much any faction that can be very mobile can sort of play that way, because it really does require you to be able to reposition quickly and, you know, kind of dictate the engagements as you're playing forward. But, I mean, obviously, like Beastmen and Wood Elves, that's kind of their signature, is to play a little bit off balance, perhaps, and not really take straight-up engagements there, like I did in that battle. And, yeah, other factions that can do this quite well. Yeah, High Elves can, to a degree, although they're pretty expensive, and it's a little bit hard to. Same thing with, I mean, Wood Elves, they do it quite decently as well. The lack of like a cost-effective lower tier shock cavalry does hurt a little bit, although Wild Riders are certainly very, very strong, and when microed well, they're honestly the best light cavalry in the game. But yeah, definitely Greenskins can kind of play this swarming and asymmetric mobile style. Again, really any faction that has mobility, even I would say Coast, who would agree. You actually saw me in a game against Killing Smalls recently, or if you haven't, you should definitely go watch it, where I played the Coast and just took a very mobile build with a lot of like scurvy dogs and bats, and I have used that against other players in the past, and it works pretty well, because especially for Coast, it's not something that they expect. And if you come in here and like have a nice mobile blob of like fell bats and scurvy dogs, throw an overcast Dance Macabre on them, so they have more melee attack. And bats actually have good melee defense, and just all in general, the swarm of unit models can take out like enemy light cavalry very quickly, decisively win the mobility engagement regardless, and then just, you know, sort of use that swarming harass and superior unit models take out, you know, whatever you need to. And of course, playing in a support role with your heroes as well is always going to be very important, right? So like for any of these, I would say the more optimal way to play that is, again, you need monster support, you need hero support abilities. Yeah, and that kind of varies from faction to faction, but you guys will see in a lot of my replays that I do play this way, and a lot of other players kind of play this way as well. Not always. A lot of the time I still will bring a front line, but even then, like, I'm still not usually running straight into my opponent, right? Like, just taking a heads-up line-on-line face engagement is not always the best thing to do, and oftentimes is actually the wrong thing to do. I would say in many cases it's the wrong thing to do. And especially in certain matchups, if you think that you're not going to be able to win the front line, for example, like against the Greenskins, you know, then playing in that style is almost essential, right, for certain factions, certainly. Like, I would argue Norska, which can play pretty well in this style. You kind of have to play off of your Skinwolves a little bit, but they do have a lot of hard-hitting, fast mobile units. I mean, Ice Wolves even have really good weapon strength, right? Their melee defense is not amazing, and their HP for this cost, I mean, they're not super great, but they're okay. And, you know, you kind of play them along with some Skinwolves and like a bunch of Marauder Horsemen. Come in with something like this, and suddenly you can see this is actually not the worst. A couple of Feral Manticores. You can take a cheap, you know, good support hero, which in this case would be Wolfric. And then just, you know, cheaped out caster as well. I'd have to kind of play around with this build a little bit and see exactly what, you know, what all the optimal things would be to do. But anyway, yeah, again, just with any faction, you can kind of skew in this direction and do different things. Kind of just depends. Like here, I don't really know. I'm just kind of throwing a build together, to be honest. Something like this. And then, yeah, you take just a couple of Marauders to make it look like you have some infantry somewhere. I don't know. Or you could even just take the dogs. Just take a couple of Norscan Warhounds if you want to go all full mobility, although that is pretty risky. You don't really have any high model count units for your opponent to chew on. But I don't know, you can kind of play around with it and see with these asymmetric builds. Obviously, Norska doesn't have artillery to do that with, but like with the Beastmen, for example, you can take something like the Eye of Morslib and then go primarily mobility on top of that, right? Go with like some Centaurs, maybe you get some Poison Warhounds. We'll go with a Lord who is, let's say, decently mobile with some okay support. Beast Lord on the Chariot. It's a little bit vulnerable. Was probably not the ideal choice, and there's an argument to be made you should just go with Morgar, but yeah, anyway, you kind of get the idea at this point. just playing off balance, and again, with these sort of weird, strange builds, is you don't want to play just straight into your opponent. I guess I hope, I've been rambling a little bit here at the end, but I hope I've driven home the point for you guys. So hopefully you enjoyed, found this helpful or informative. If you did, give it a like and share, subscribe for more, hit that bell notification button, and we'll see you next time.